Ferrari in front with Lewis Hamilton in the morning, Williams leading in the afternoon with Carlos Sainz, second day with rain in the desert over in Bahrain, and even intermediate tires made an appearance. I'm not kidding. McLaren, which seemed to be ahead yesterday, had a strange day today. Lost a lot of time stuck in the garage. Red Bull had a complicated morning with Liam Lawson. Problems with water pressure in the engine cooling system. TV Narrator from Bandeirantes is removed. A lot to discuss on this second day of pre-season in Bahrain. So, without further ado, sit down. Lewis Hamilton with the Ferrari SF25 on C3 tires, softer than the ones he used yesterday, set the best time in the morning, early hours in Bahrain, which ended at 8 a.m. for us. Here, the first half of the session, a 1-hour break, and the second started then at 9 and went until 1 p.m. Up to that point, it would be the fastest lap, but in the afternoon, he would be surpassed by the unlikely Williams, driven by Carlos Sainz. We'll talk about that shortly. He set that time right at the beginning because the session had, believe it or not, rain, and the Haas car with Esteban Ocon even went out on the track with intermediate tires. When the adverse weather cleared up, dissipated, then everyone went back to the track. And mind you, there are 26 rainy days per year on average in Bahrain. Historical climate average there. 2 of them happened during this year's Formula One preseason. That's what I call a good coincidence. In the morning, we even had contact between 2 cars. Nico Hulkenberg and Oscar Piastri managed to find each other on an almost empty track. Piastri was on a faster lap. Hulkenberg was warned, tried to get out of the way, but at a certain point it was impossible. And they found each other. It was a light contact, both were able to continue. But it's worth noting, 2 drivers managed to find each other on a track with practically no one else at that moment. George Russell from Mercedes, Carlos Sainz from Williams, and then Piastri Gasly from Alpine, and Fernando Alonso came next. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Hamilton then, at the end, improved his time to 1:29.379, had dropped and returned to the top in the final moments of the first part. Most of the teams then, except for Red Bull with Liam Lawson and Williams with Carlos Sainz, swapped their crew, so to speak, and then came Leclerc in place of Hamilton, in place of Hulkenberg and Bortoleto, and so on. Russell, the second, was one of the busiest drivers in the morning session, covering well, over the distance of a Grand Prix in total. In fact, so that this doesn't remain an isolated measure, every time I mention the distance of a Grand Prix, it's 57 laps, which is what is usually run in Bahrain. And Russell, in the morning session, already shows here the timetable and total laps, did 71. As I mentioned then, Russell was 2nd, Carlos Sainz 3rd, Piastri Gasly 4th, Fernando Alonso 5th, Yuki Tsunoda was 6th, Oscar Piastri was 7th, Liam Lawson was 8th, Nico Hulkenberg 9th, and Esteban Ocon 10th, with Haas, which follows its resolute schedule. It seems like they know what they're doing. I'll comment on that shortly. Continuously running on hard tires with a full tank and not caring about the rest. There were already people in the comments yesterday wanting to criticize Berman, and I said, look, Haas did the same thing last year. It's not driver incompetence. The team knows what they're doing, especially since they're doing a lot of laps in the same manner. In terms of laps, Hamilton did 45, Russell, as I already mentioned, 71, Sainz 44, Gasly 40, Alonso 45. Again, a low number of laps for Aston Martin. However, in this case, we give them a pass because they chose not to run in the rain afterward. Tsunoda 46, Oscar Piastri 44, Lawson. With a water pressure issue in the cooling system, he only did 28 and was stopped for a long time. Then Hulkenberg did 56 and Ocon 69. I mentioned that he keeps going a lot. Ocon only did fewer laps than Russell, who did the most with 71. In the second part, Carlos Sainz with a Williams that is drawing a bit of attention. Let's be cautious, a bit of attention. He led the timing charts. Had the best overall in the combined lists. And also, since he didn't share the car with Albon, he was the one who drove the most this Thursday. 127 laps for the Spaniard, But then tomorrow the car is Albon's, full time. Carlos won't drive anymore in this preseason. The session started at 3 p.m. local time, 9 a.m. here in Brazil. And it lasted until 1 p.m. He, Sainz, was one of the first to go out. And then came Lando Norris with McLaren. But he only did 7 laps and returned to the garage. And he stayed there for a long time. Sainz and Leclerc were responsible for today's spins, both of them skidding on the track. In Leclerc's case, when he tried to accelerate on the curve leading to the straight, it had drizzled and he might not have noticed. Or he underestimated the amount of water. As the temperature dropped with the sun setting and the test continued into the night there, Sainz clocked 129.348, 0.031. Faster than Lewis Hamilton, still with his morning time. Coincidentally, or not, I think it's just a mere coincidence, Sainz set the fastest time on the second day of preseason testing last year. On that occasion, he was starting his notice period with Ferrari. I mention notice period because he had just learned that Lewis Hamilton would be taking his place, who is now making his debut. Following that, after Hamilton's time in the morning, came Leclerc's in the afternoon. Leclerc, Sainz's former teammate last year at Ferrari, with Russell in fourth, also with his morning time. And Antonelli, who took over in the second part, in fifth. Antonelli completed an impressive 87 laps. If you consider, for example, that Sainz, who drove the most, drove the whole day and did 128, and Antonelli drove only half the day and did 87, the Italian teenager drove quite a lot. Then, Stroll with 57, Lawson with 91, drove a bit more in the afternoon after just 28 in the morning. Duhan with 80, Gasly with 40, Hadjar with 94, Alonso with 45 in the morning. Oscar Piastri with 44, and Lando Norris, who did well once he got going and completed 77 laps, 70 after those initial 7. Gabriel Bortoleto, who also completed an impressive number of laps, 80. Hulkenberg behind him with 56, I'll talk about that too. Ocon with 69, Berman with 66 in the number of laps completed combined. From yesterday and today by teams, we have Mercedes leading. It is the only team to have reached the 300 mark with 306 laps. Then Haas with 295, Racing Bus with 294. These 3 are more isolated from the rest. Then we have a group with about 4 teams that are in the middle zone, so to speak. Ferrari, Alpine, Williams, and Sauber. Ferrari has 269 laps. Alpine 260 up. Williams 258 and Sauber 250. Then a neither nor situation with McLaren and Red Bull. I want to comment in detail about these two. 239 for the current Constructors' Champion, 223 for Red Bull of Verstappen, the current Drivers' Champion. And then indeed, the last one with 189 laps for Aston Martin, which yesterday was the one that ran the least, but today, despite having run quite a bit in the second part of the day, was the second to last, the second that ran the least again, which means they are already 117 laps more than the distance of 2 Grand Prix behind Mercedes, the one that ran the most, and that is lacking. I always say here their schedule, whatever it may be, is not being fulfilled. But I also want to talk about McLaren, which for a long time, especially in the afternoon with Norris, kept applying Flovis on the car and then didn't even, and they would apply it again and then clean it off without sending the driver back on track. Meanwhile, the mechanics and engineers were looking under the floor, which doesn't seem to be something planned. Especially because with only 3 days of testing, no one wastes time standing in the garage. Something happened. I don't know if it's something dramatic, but something unexpected happened. At first, you might think they are so confident that they don't want to show their hand, but there's always something to test and experiment with. Staying idle for so long is not good. Another team that stayed idle for a long time was Red Bull, with a water pressure problem in Lawson's car. But there is at least a logical explanation for that. And these two, in theory, the main forces of the championship, at least in theory, considering last year, seem to be going through some setbacks. Regarding Haas, some people are saying they're letting us dream. Haas is the worst team. Sauber is not. It could be, of course it could be. I won't be the one to say otherwise here, being the author of the mantra. In preseason, nobody knows anything. But last year with Magnussen and Hulkenberg, Haas did exactly the same thing. Et ton. Laps, always far from seeking performance. Tomorrow, we should see all the teams without exception taking a bit of fuel out of the tank, putting on softer tires, and trying to set 1 or 2 qualifying simulation laps. We should always keep in mind the caveats: engine power mode and 50, 30, 70 kilos of fuel in the tank. So real performance, knowing if it's running faster than Hulkenberg. Detail both times he drove. Yesterday and today he drove during the best part of the day. Cooler, the sun had already set, the asphalt more rubbered in. Are you saying, Rodrigo, something bad about the boy, Bortoleto? No, I'm being extremely realistic to avoid creating expectations. There was Dodo yesterday saying that Bortoleto drove more than Hamilton. He set a faster time there, but Hamilton drove in the morning, Bortoleto drove in the afternoon. We don't know what schedule was being followed. For God's sake, people, we have to stay here like a parrot insisting on this kind of thing? I know, everyone. Me too. Want answers? We don't have them. Do you know when we'll find out if Bortoleto drove more than Hulkenberg? No. Q1, Q2, Q3? I don't know if they'll make it to Q3. They're in Albert Park in 2 weeks. Then, yes, we'll know. That's when all the cards are laid down. But if yesterday I said that McLaren had a smooth day and seemed to be the favorite today, I have my doubts. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Mercedes had 2 good days and Ferrari had a good day today. Not that yesterday was bad. Aston Martin still seems a bit odd. In fact, in a week, Adrian Newey starts working there. It will be on March 3rd. I don't think they will spend many resources. In this case, much of Newey's time on this year's car, the focus has to be on 2026, when there is a major regulation change. But in any case, Newey will start appearing at the races. Yesterday, late afternoon, I had just finished editing a video, and while I'm editing the video, I can't watch the news. Then came the confirmation from journalist Gabriel Wacker from F5 that Sergio Maurício, the Formula 1 commentator for TV Bandeirantes, is temporarily removed from both football and Formula 1 at Bandy. He was scheduled for the preseason, and he is not commentating. This comes in the wake of a topic that is causing quite a stir this week. If you haven't heard, I'll tell you. On Sunday, a Twitter account claiming to be Sergio Mauricio's, which has been consistently tagged by TV Bandeirantes and participants of the network's programming for years, and even posts behind-the-scenes photos, like them at the bakery having coffee, etc., commented on a third-party post about the São Paulo deputy, Erika Hamilton, in a transphobic manner. Transphobic? According to the understanding of the Supreme Federal Court, equated to the crime of racial slur, the account was deactivated in the subsequent hours. And then a statement came out through an advisory with Sergio Maurício denying the authorship of the post, saying symptomatically that he has nothing against nor anything in favor of the deputy, claiming he suffered a hacker attack and that the account, mind you, was never his. And then evidently the internet was divided, but the fact is that those who matter at this point, TV Bandeirantes and the offended party, Erika Hamilton, did not accept the official apologies given. According to yesterday's news, Band has suspended Sergio Maurício. The deputy stated that she will take appropriate legal action against the commentator, or in this case, who knows, former commentator. All right, the record is made here. It didn't make it into yesterday's video because at the time of recording, just like now, if something happens, it won't make it into the video. The editing was ready, it was being uploaded, and then it was left out. If the deputy pursues the matter through the public prosecutor's office, she can request the lifting of confidentiality. And then we might find out whether the post was made by Sergio Maurício or not. If it wasn't him, he is the most interested in contributing to the investigations, clarifying and clearing his name. So, this is our daily bulletin of the preseason tests. Second day. Tomorrow we'll be back for day 3. The last edition and tomorrow's video will take the place of our weekly news roundup, especially since we're already covering a good part of the week's news here. Day 1, day 2, day 3 of the preseason. All right, so leave a like, it's free. It costs nothing, you know. And it really helps the channel that's booming. We're growing rapidly, getting a lot of views. Thanks to the likes, comments, and the hype you all bring. This shows the algorithm that you like the videos, and then it understands. I need to show it to more people. Let's spread it across the internet. And so who knows, before the season starts, we might hit 200,000 subscribers. I also take this opportunity to make an announcement. We will have another channel here in 2025. You don't know what I'm talking about. weren't you here yet, I'll tell you, it's not another channel, it's this channel. Another channel is a joke. Since the last 6 stages of last year, we have been working on a project to alternatively broadcast Formula One for our audience. So you watch on the usual channels on TV, F1, TV or band, turn down the volume and listen to us. Last year, I did the 6 stages 5 with Jefferson Kern doing the commentary. And I did the commentary and one of them with Yuri Ventura and me again on commentary. It worked out really well. The audience liked it a lot and we are getting support, sponsorships, etc. to do the entire season. They issue a local yellow flag, then sometimes they put the full course yellow, then the virtual safety car, then the safety car, and so on. After that, the safety car faces the 5th place in the Guanabara Cup. So it's hard to understand, right? All right. So that's it. Leave a like, as I mentioned. It costs nothing and helps the channel a lot. Leave your hype with us. Leave a comment. Anything, even if it's just an emoji. It already helps the algorithm understand what you commented. Put that little thinking emoji because after all, during the preseason, we think a lot about who's doing well. Who? Tanda, not well. And I'll see you back here tomorrow. To not miss anything, our social media handles are being shown here. Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok. There's content all the time. Besides our notification channels, Telegram, Paxter, and WhatsApp, and the notification channel, also on Instagram. All right. So, thanks. And see you tomorrow. A big hug.